diabolic international intrigue.
Oh, this should give you the willies. Look.
With hatred in her smile and vengeance in her heart. For those who love horror. For those who have the guts.
Video Psychosis.
Hello, and welcome to the Video Psychosis podcast. This is episode 6. I'm your host, Strong Knots. With me today, a couple very special guest speakers. The first time on the show, I've had 2 guests. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Bri.
And I'm Andrew.
And these two work on a podcast called Are You Afraid of the Dark with Derek. Check it out. It's available in multiple formats. Basically, y'all go over episodes of the Nickelodeon show from the 90s.
We kind of sit down all together and watch whatever new episode we're on, and then we record a little dissection of it, and half the time we go on these weird rants about other things, and it's a whole lot of fun. It's kind of a comedy show, but if you're a fan of the actual show, Are You Afraid of the Dark, you'd probably appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a good time.
I would like to remind people, check out the Video Psychosis Facebook page. We have information about this event coming up. We're going to be screening Fearlofia, Son of the White Mare, Hungarian film from the early 80s. It's going to be at the Meeting House in Olympia, last Saturday of July. But for now, you've assembled a series of films here that you think deserve a little more credit you want to go into.
Okay, I don't want to start off too strong here, because I feel like Bri also has a couple of things that kind of go into a category that I have. So I'm going to start off with one of my favorite actors of all time, Michael Keaton. Everyone knows Michael Keaton, usually as Beetlejuice or as Batman.
The best Batman.
Yeah, Tim Burton's Batman. His two Batmans. Batmen. Personally, my favorite. There's been a couple of Batmans in the world, a couple of Batmans since Michael. Mm-hmm. I don't know, just wasn't quite captured as good as good old Tim and Mikey fucking working together.
Keaton's got the mistake, dude.
Keaton has got that brow that kills.
That's true.
Killer brows.
He's got that killer brow. And it was incorporated in that mask, you know. First on my list for underrated movies underneath the Michael Keaton section, Night Shift. It was directed by Ron Howard. It was one of his first movies. It's basically it's Michael Keaton's character and the Fonzie.
Henry Winkler.
Henry Winkler, and they work at a morgue together. They become pimps.
Yeah, basically.
More or less. They become pimps, and they're really good at it.
This is not going to be the only pimp movie that we talk about.
That's true, yeah. But yeah, it's kind of like an underdog story. Like, Michael Keaton is not even the main character. He's the supporting character. He's crazy. He's zany. He's, like, just talking constantly about, like, these crazy ideas that he has. Like, there's this speech that he has about, like, this weird sandwich.
Yeah.
You know?
He's like a new recruit at the morgue, isn't he? Like, he just gets the job, and he pretty much is like an annoyance to Henry Winkler for the opening parts of the movie.
Pretty much. Yeah, but as the movie goes on...
It's almost like a buddy cop movie.
It's almost like a buddy cop movie, but as the movie goes on, like, Michael Keaton's... I'm sorry that I can't remember his character's name, but Michael Keaton's character pretty much gives Winkler the confidence that he's been... Because Winkler's, like, pathetic.
He's in a rut.
He's just pathetic. And he ends up being a pimp for these prostitutes, give him confidence, and Michael Keaton's character gives him confidence. So it's kind of an uplifting
story about prostitution.
It's like a Cinderella story.
No, it's total like a Cinderella story. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ron Howard. Second on my Michael Keaton list is Johnny Dangerously.
Oh yeah.
That movie's really good. It opens up with an original by Weird Al.
Yeah, that's right. The theme song.
Ain't This the Life? I believe is what it's called. But yeah, that movie's really good. It's got a pretty good cast. You got Dom DeLuise, you got Danny DeVito, you got Young Frankenstein,
Peter Boyle.
You have who's that guy that was on SNL?
Joe Piscopo, probably
yep,
his funniest movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Johnny Dangerously.
Yeah. You shouldn't hang me on a hook, Johnny. My mom hung me on a hook once. Yeah, that one's really good. It's like a 1930s gangster, but it's like total slapstick, fucking, like, I'm surprised Leslie Nielsen wasn't in this flick. That one's really good. Check that one out.
That movie is, I think, pretty well ahead of its time because there aren't so many gangster spoof movies out there that came out a lot later, like Mafia, that Jay Moore movie, or like Corky Romano, or but Johnny Dangerously is like a straight up almost spoof movie of it, and like there's even a part where toward the climax, characters attend a screening of The Roaring Twenties with Bogart and James Cagney. Mm-hmm. I think that movie is really good. Amy Heckerling directed that, and she made Clueless, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Look Who's Talking. I think that movie is super underrated. Like the very first joke in the movie is amazing. You know how like they show the text on screen that shows like the setting or the time and place, and you see like 1935 on the screen, and all of a sudden you hear bah, bah, and like this car just blasts right through the numbers and tears them up and leaves them in the street.
Yeah.
I had never even heard of that movie until we started dating.
Yeah. Wow.
And then you were like, have you ever seen this? I was like, no, I don't even know what this is. So it's definitely underrated because I didn't know about it.
Baby. Michael Keaton. And then my last one on my Michael Keaton list. So this was a toss-up. I was thinking about doing Multiplicity, and I went straight to Desperate Measures, which is not a comedy. It's a drama, thriller, where Michael Keaton actually plays the bad guy.
Mm-hmm. That's fun to see.
And he is a hell of a villain in this movie. It's really good. It's a really good watch.
That is a really good movie.
Yeah.
Desperate Measures. That's Andy Garcia's in that one.
That's right, yeah.
And
he plays the cop and also the father of the boy.
The guy who directed that movie actually made a lot of stuff. He did a couple documentaries. Like he did that General Idi Amin movie where he's like on the boat with that guy talking to him and stuff. And he also did Coco, a talking gorilla. So the dude did all kinds of work. Pretty interesting.
Shit.
Keaton is cool when he gets to shine as a bad guy like Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
He's a great bad guy because he's so goddamn charismatic.
I love Beetlejuice. That's my favorite movie of all time. And I always forget that he is the villain in that movie.
Michael Keaton has a lot of good stuff peppered throughout his filmography. It's cool that he kind of, I don't want to say like a comeback because he's consistently done work throughout the years, but it was cool that like when he did Birdman, that kind of brought him back to like mainstream prominence a little bit. I really like him in like Jackie Brown and Out of Sight, where he's like that kind of FBI guy who's like not the smartest.
I always forget that he's in Jackie Brown until I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh yeah, fucking Michael Keaton's in this movie.
Yeah.
He's only in it for a little bit.
Did either of you ever see The Dream Team?
Yeah, we have it.
I almost put that on my list too.
Yeah.
Christopher Lloyd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that movie's got a really good ending. Clean and sober. Mm-hmm. Honorable mention. I'm going to move on to my next one, which is also categorized by actor. John Candy movies. Armed and Dangerous. I'd never heard of it, and Bri found it. It was still wrapped.
It was still wrapped in plastic, and it said, tape not inside. It's like, that's bullshit. I could feel it.
I see it right
It was
here.
like an old rental box or something, because it had the side flap, like a folding side flap. And I was like, this looks pretty great, and it's in great condition, so I just grabbed it. Even if the tape wasn't in there, or if it was like a blank tape, it's like, at least we have the cool box.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a great movie. Like he's a cop and he gets framed, so he gets fired and then becomes a security guard.
Is it Eugene Levy with him?
Yep. It's another kind of like buddy cop style story.
Isn't Meg Ryan in that movie?
Meg Ryan is their like instructor.
Yeah.
It's a good cast, and I can't believe that I'd never even heard of it. And someone's going to be out there and be like, what the fuck? Like, you just now watched that movie? It's my favorite John Candy movie. Like, everybody knows Uncle Buck. Everybody knows, like, the Great Outdoors.
Yeah,
all those movies.
Yeah.
Oh, he's so adorable in that movie.
The guy who directed Armed and Dangerous is Mark L. Lester. If that name's not immediately familiar, he made a shitload of brutal action movies like Class of 1984,
Oh, shit.
Commando, and
love Commando.
Showdown in Little Tokyo with Dolph Lundgren and
Steel
Brandon
drums
Lee.
in Commando.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. Carrying a tree over your shoulder? It's more American than that.
Yeah, dude, having what's-her-face as a daughter that gets kidnapped.
Alyssa Milano.
Yeah. Yeah, my next one is Who is Harry Crumb? I feel like that is the most underrated. It's so up there with all those movies like Funny Farm, and all those SNL actors were doing pretty much the same thing at the same time. I mean, like David Spade and Chris Farley were doing their shit just at the same time that Adam Sandler was doing his thing. And they were like equally as famous, all coming. Mike Myers doing his shit, and I feel like Who is Harry Crumb was kind of like swept under the rug a little bit. I mean, it was I was a little young to know exactly how it was perceived, but yeah, it took me years to watch to watch Who is Harry Crumb, and I think that might be one of my favorite movies of all time. Like, John Candy is so good. The slapstick, like the fact that he's like a personal investigator in a huge firm, like almost treated like a law firm, but he's fucking awful.
He's the worst.
He thinks he's the best, but he's fucking terrible.
It's kind of like how Chris Farley is supposed to be a ninja in Beverly Hills Ninja, and they're all just like,
Absolutely.
you're the worst ninja ever.
Yeah. So yeah, Who is Harry Crumb? Check that one out. It's got some really good villains. It's got some really good parts. It also has the actress that plays Janine from Ghostbusters. It's really good.
John Candy actually has done. You brought up that a lot of people have seen like Uncle Buck, and the more popular movies. He's been in so much stuff that it's interesting to dive in there. Like, I was a big fan of Little Shop of Horrors when I was a kid, and he's great in that. And Heavy Metal, I think people forget he's in that. I don't want to walk around with my dork hanging out.
Yeah. That should have gone on my list.
He's in a horror movie called The Clown Murders. Clowns are murdered, probably.
Probably.
He's in the
Have you seen
70s. I haven't seen it, but it's on the list, dude. Right next to
Shit.
that Tiny Tim movie.
Oh, fuck.
Him and Martin Short were both on SCTV, and they ended up making like an SCTV anthology horror comedy movie, Really Weird Tales. That's another interesting one.
Yeah.
Hot to Trot, Bobcat
Oh, yeah.
Goldthwait.
Fuck.
John Candy's a horse.
Yeah.
If that was on,
We referenced that in our podcast at one point.
if that was on my movie shelf, I probably would have put that on there.
Hot to Trot's the
Hot
jam.
to Trot. Yeah, dude, I have the soundtrack to that movie.
One of my favorite Gilbert Gottfried roles as the dentist at the end. Wow! Yeah. The director of Who is Harry Crumb also made another movie I'm pretty sure you're a fan of, and that's kind of serves as a segue, Clifford, with Martin
fuck.
Short.
I did not know
That's
that.
on my list.
Same director.
Excellent. That's awesome. Well, Bri, why don't you chime in and why don't you talk about Clifford?
Okay. Clifford has been in my life since I was a little child watching HBO at my grandma's house, because she used to let us watch HBO and not care what we were watching. That's how I also saw like The Gate and Gremlins and fucking Killer Clowns from Outer Space for the first time. She just let us watch whatever and didn't monitor us. So, not that Clifford is vulgar in any way, but that was one of the movies I remember watching as a kid. And it was always one of my favorite movies. No matter when it was on, I would watch it. So it's Martin Short playing a child. But he does it so well. I never questioned that was a grown-ass man. I was like, this is a kid. This is a little shitty kid.
Yeah.
And it's basically like he wants to go to this theme park that revolves around dinosaurs and his favorite character, Larry the Scary Rex. So he gets kicked off of his airplane with his parents, and his uncle comes to take him, who helped design the park. It's really funny. It's super weird because it's a grown man acting like a child.
Yeah.
But like I said,
almost a grown man.
Yeah, he's very small.
His last name's Short.
Yeah,
for fuck's sake.
for a reason. It's so funny. I love that movie.
Speaking of Martin Short, let's talk about Pure Luck.
Another great film.
I think that this was the movie that made me a Martin Short fan. My mom was a huge fan of this movie. I saw Clifford in the theater when I was a kid.
Jealous.
And I was just like, fuck yeah, Martin Short, this is amazing, because I was a fan of Pure Luck. Anybody out there that's listening, like, please go watch Pure Luck. It's so funny. It's a slapstick comedy. It's like a buddy cop movie, kind of. You got Danny Glover and Martin Short working together to try and find this rich dude's daughter who has horrible luck. So
She's very accident prone.
one of his like CEOs is like, hey, what would be a really good way to find your daughter is to have someone with equally as horrible luck to just kind of stumble upon her. And that's the whole concept of the movie.
And it works.
So
it totally
poor
works.
Danny Glover.
Yeah, poor Danny
following
Glover.
around Martin Short, who's also
Just
the worst.
The worst.
Lots of physical comedy.
Oh,
He
yeah.
keeps like walking into doors.
Into doors.
And getting like nosebleeds and ear bleeds. And
He gets stung by bees, horribly allergic. There's this scene with a salt shaker that makes me it makes my mouth, before you start throwing up, your mouth starts watering. That whole scene with the salt shaker, that's what it does to me almost every time.
where Danny Glover tricks him and sees if he'll fall for it. And he just goes,
Yeah,
right
he's
in.
like testing to make sure his luck is actually bad.
just
Well,
like
yeah,
the
'cause-
chair, yeah.
Because the whole thing is based on a fluke. Danny Glover does not believe this mission. He just doesn't believe it's gonna work. Yeah, but the best part in Pure Luck is the flying karate kick into a tree.
That's my absolute favorite.
And that's
part.
all I'm gonna say. Watch the movie. It's very underrated, obviously. Speaking of awesome slapstick, Wrongfully Accused, a Leslie Nielsen spoof, of course, on The Fugitive. That movie from beginning to end is one of the fucking funniest gags. It's so goddamn good. Like, it opens with him playing this huge, like, coliseum, and he's, like, the violinist. And he's, like, playing, he's, like, scratching his nose, and...
He has a third hand that scratches his, like, face, yeah.
Yeah, and
Playing
then, like,
with his teeth.
and then all of a sudden, yeah, like, he's just, like, doing the Jimi Hendrix, and... But one thing, like, everything that happens in that movie is so fucking funny. Like, the guy with the goggles, and he takes the goggles off, and, like, there's, like, static electricity in his eyes. It doesn't make any sense, but it makes me laugh every time. But my favorite scene in Wrongfully Accused is when the train is chasing him. And he's on the bike in the woods.
Yeah.
Dude, that part is so fucking funny. Yeah, Wrongfully Accused. That one's really good. Really good, like, Leslie Nielsen movie without it being
Mel Brooks.
Mel Brooks.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's really good at slapstick. Yeah, Wrongfully Accused. Another underrated movie that is a comedy but taken a little more seriously is Bowfinger with Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy. That movie's really good. The movie about making a movie without having any money.
Keep it together, keep it together, keep it together.
I'm trying.
Bowfinger, that's directed by Frank Oz, who made Little Shop of Horrors, which we just brought up there.
And he's Yoda.
He's also
That's right.
Yoda.
Miss Piggy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was one of Jim Henson's best friends.
Steve Martin has a lot of pretty underrated movies. People, I think, look at him and know mostly the classic comedy stuff like The Jerk, but then he's also got good stuff like The Lonely Guy or Pennies from Heaven. The Man with Two Brains is pretty funny, underrated kind of movie.
Yeah, he went like a different direction. Like kind of like how Chevy Chase went into a different direction. Kind of like let's do like other than the vacation movie. Like Funny Farm is only funny for a little bit, and then it gets really serious at the end, and then it ends happy. It's kind of like let's just see what we can do with our careers.
Yeah.
You know, like I think Steve Martin kind of did the same thing, but in a different way, where he was just like, I'm gonna do a serious movie, but I'm always kind of gonna be the funny guy. Stay Tuned is another one that's on my list.
Great movie.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's a
Stay
good
Tuned.
one.
Like, not enough people know what the hell that movie is. John Ritter, holy shit, man.
R.I.P.
I love John Ritter. He can do no wrong. Even if the movie is bad, like,
You still get John Ritter.
you still get John
He's
Ritter.
still good in it.
Like, as far as I'm concerned, like, the reason the made-for-TV It movie is so goddamn good is because John Ritter's in there.
And Tim Curry.
Stay Tuned. Really good. John Ritter's character, he watches too much TV. His wife is basically going to leave him, and he ends up getting the deal of a lifetime. He signs his soul away to get all these amazing channels. Yeah, it's really good. We get some really good spoofs of game shows, and we get some spoofs of Wayne's World.
Yeah, what is it?
Wayne's
Wayne's
Underworld.
Underworld.
Yep.
Yeah, there's
And,
zombies.
That movie makes a fun double feature with Terror Vision.
I was gonna say that, and also Amazon Women from the Moon.
This list could have been so long. So I'm going to change it up a little bit, and I'm going to go... These are more recent movies that have been made within, like, the last, 10 years, I would say. A little New Zealand movie called Housebound that came out. It was the same year that Clown came out. Housebound is really good. It opens up with this girl trying to rob an ATM. She gets caught and she has to do house arrest, and her only address that exists is at her parents' house. And so she has to move back in, and she's stuck there with the parents that she does not like at all. Some weird shit is happening within the house. And, it's basically haunted is what happens. And nobody really believes her, and she keeps getting in trouble by her, like, probation officer and stuff like that because she gets scared and, like, runs out and stuff like that. But as the movie unfolds, it turns into something that you wouldn't really expect. It's a lot of fun, and it's really funny. Hardcore Henry came out a couple years ago. Like, what was that, like 4 years ago? I don't know. It's a first-person movie. It's like the most, like, 80s storyline based in the future, but it's all filmed first person, kind of like a like a shoot 'em up game.
I thought you were
like
going to say ADD. I was like, yep.
Oh, it's total ADD. But one of my favorite parts is that it has, and you guys are gonna have to help me out on this. It's got the actor.
Charlton Copley.
There you go. Yeah, who is more famous for doing District 9, Elysium.
I liked him in Free Fire. He was good in that.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
It's like a really good, like kind of old-fashioned crime movie from a few years ago. Ben Wheatley. Good movie.
He's a good guy.
Oh, Chappie. He voices Chappie.
Oh, Chappie.
Yeah, Chappie, want to get in the van? Man, fuck Chappie. I like that movie, but it was just the scene from Short Circuit 2 when they're beating him with the axe. The movie.
Yeah.
Stephanie. Yeah, Hardcore Henry is really good. This guy wakes up, not a hospital, but like a lab, and his wife is talking to him, and there's like, "Oh, you had an accident. You're awake. I can't believe. Do you know who I am?" And he's like, "No." And it's all first person, so like the camera moves over and stuff like that. And anyway, so like the whole movie is like him running away, and it's all first person, and there's like some fucking gnarly stunts. I don't hear anybody talking about this movie. It's so cool.
It's really over the top and ridiculous, but the whole end fight scene, which is like 45 minutes long, is batshit crazy, and it's so fun to watch.
It's really, really cool.
Even if you only watch it to see the end fight scene, and that's the only part you like, I think you'd still like the movie.
Like if you ever wanted to see like Running Man on steroids
As a video game?
as a video game. Another one for me, Upgrade. Really cool. It was actually written and directed by, if you guys are like fans or have watched the Insidious movies, where it's like the crew, it's like the dude, the big guy that talks like this, and then like the nerdy guy, like the ones that work with
Lin Shaye.
With Lin Shaye.
Yeah.
So it's the guy with the glasses. He wrote and directed this movie. It's basically about this. It's based in the future, but you don't know it at first because this guy is like, it opens up in his garage and he's working on this old muscle car that he's making for somebody else. And his wife comes home that has a car that just drives by themselves. Anyways, they end up getting in a fucking crash and she dies and he gets paralyzed. Well, the guy that he made the fucking muscle car for is really awkward genius in, software and stuff like that. So he ends up putting a microchip in this guy's fucking stem that can control his brainstem that can help him control his body. But it talks to him. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a really good action flick. The whole concept, the filming style is what makes me love this movie so much.
It's really fun to watch.
It's really cool. I don't know how the hell I know how they did it, but like trying to come up with the fact of like, there's like, no, this is how we're going to do it. I'm just like, wow, you fucking nailed it.
The fight scenes are really enjoyable.
No, it's very cool. It's a mystery movie and a revenge movie, but it's all action packed and like it just gives it to you in a completely different angle that it hasn't really been done. Overlord.
Oh.
This is a World War II based movie that came out last summer. And it was produced by J.J. Abrams. The trailer looked really cool, but I didn't hear anybody talking about it. I didn't hear any good things about it, so I was like, movies are expensive now. I'm not going to go.
And then Paul Malick told us it was cool.
And then Paul fucking Malick was like, hey, this movie's really good. And I'm just like, okay. So Bri bought it. We watched it. I think we saw it the first time 2 weeks ago. I still don't hear anybody fucking talking about Overlord at all. This movie's fucking awesome. This movie is so good. The gore is really good. The storyline's really good. And I'm not going to give anything away, but it's got John Carpenter style fucking Nazi experiments.
Along the lines of like The Thing.
And Reanimator.
Yeah. It's kind of Reanimator meets The Thing meets...
Fucking Hellboy. I don't know.
Oh, what's that? Frankenstein's Army?
Oh, Frankenstein's
Nazi
Army.
zombie movie.
But like done really, really well. Overlord, I can't express enough of like how much it was the movie that I didn't know that I wanted.
It takes a minute to get to the whole sci-fi horror aspect of the movie because it's a lot of war and action stuff at first. But once you get there, it's like, whoa, holy shit.
Yeah, once you figure out what the fuck's going on and you're riding along and watching these characters figuring out what the fuck's going on, it's so much fun. Like, it's just a roller coaster ride and it's fucking awesome and it's like supernatural and it's just cool. Like, if you like The Thing and Reanimator, guaranteed you're gonna love this movie. And there really isn't all that much CGI in it either.
Just a bit.
There's a little bit, but not the way that you think it would be. Green Room is a really good movie. It's about a punk band that's on tour. And they end up getting a show at this little venue that's kind of in the middle of nowhere, but it's in
Oregon.
But it's a venue that is secured by the Nazi community.
But they don't know that.
Basically, they end up witnessing a murder, and everybody there is not gonna let them leave because they're going to try and kill him.
And they barricade themselves in the green room.
They barricade themselves into the green room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a fight for
it's
survival
war.
movie.
It's full
And
blown.
Patrick Stewart plays the head Nazi.
Which
guy.
he does an incredible job. Everyone's so used to seeing him as a fucking Xavier, and I'm just like, yeah.
No, he
Fucking-
was great. Everyone was really great in that movie.
Like, he's not even over the top. He's just kind of like, he's very reasonable the entire time. It's like, well, we're just going to have to kill you.
We need to rewatch that soon. That movie's real good.
Yeah, that movie's great.
I think
Anybody's ever been in a punk band, you'd understand.
Oh, yeah.
I think Patrick Stewart played some sort of like ex-Nazi or evil scientist in that movie, Conspiracy Theory.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so Green Room, it's really good. It's really gory. One of the first scenes that you get to see is this guy getting his fucking arm chopped up with by a machete.
Those effects
And they
are
have to-
top notch, too.
Gnarly.
Yeah, and it's all practical effects. It's really, really
It
gnarly.
looks insane.
It's really good.
There's a head blast in there that comes out of nowhere. It's like, whoa.
There's also dogs that rip
bums me
people
out.
apart. Holy shit.
Yep.
There's a lot of stuff in that movie for being in an isolated area. Like sometimes it's kind of hard to do like creative kills
Yeah.
in an isolated one venue area, but I think they pulled it together pretty good.
It was well thought out. It's a really good movie.
So, moving on from that now, there's a lot of movies that we're all fans of. We're going to take a segment of the show to do a special dedication to the great Dan Aykroyd.
I love him.
I would marry him. Sorry, Andrew. I would.
I would probably marry you too.
Like us as a
I'd be the guy I'd be like, you're now married.
oh, okay. That'd be fine.
What is that called?
Do you take this, Dan?
To
Do you
be
take,
this,
do you
to be
take this Aykroyd?
Yeah. I would.
Yeah.
I love him.
So we're going to have y'all swap off here and talk about some of your favorite Dan Aykroyd movies, and I'll just give a couple shouts at the end. Bree, why don't you get us started with one of your favorite Dan Aykroyd movies?
One of my favorite Dan Aykroyd movies, also something that shaped my childhood, the movie Nothing But Trouble, which came out in 1991. If any of you have seen this movie, you know how weird it is, but it did not do well. It kind of bombed, and everyone that made it was kind of upset about it. It's based on Dan Aykroyd's personal experiences of being pulled over in a rural town and having to go to a trial at the judge's house at like midnight, which is
yeah.
super weird. This movie also has John Candy in it, has Chevy Chase, Demi Moore, and this is, I think, the only movie Dan Aykroyd has directed.
I think so, yeah.
I think it was his first and only movie, and maybe because it did so poorly, he didn't want to do another one. But I love it. I don't think it's bad. I have very fond memories of it. It won a Worst Picture Award in 1991. It has 5% on Rotten Tomatoes, which fuck Rotten Tomatoes.
Fuck Rotten Tomatoes.
And Dan
Amen.
Aykroyd won Worst Supporting Actor at the 12th annual Golden Razzies.
Lies, he's got a dick now.
I
How
just
could that
can't
be
believe,
bad?
like, it's not that bad. It's really funny. I don't know.
That movie is hilarious and totally grotesque.
And totally underrated.
I feel like that movie should have won awards on makeup alone.
Yeah, he had a dick nose for a second.
But he doesn't only play the judge. He plays fucking... He plays...
He's Bobo.
He's Bobo and...
I think he's just Bobo.
Who's the other guy?
I don't know. Lil Devil?
Little Debo.
I think he's just real.
We're not allowed inside the house.
That movie's so good.
That movie's really good, really, really good.
I wanted to throw in a fun fact about Nothing But Trouble. You get a sweet little appearance from Tupac and the Digital Underground.
That was also Tupac's first time in a movie.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, love the Humpty Dance. That one's for you, Joey. Yeah, Dan Aykroyd. I'm going to the first on my list, and I think that this is probably the most underrated Dan Aykroyd movie that exists on this planet, which just makes me not want to live on this planet anymore. Dr. Detroit. Dr. Detroit is an amazing character-driven movie. If you haven't seen it, if you want to see Dan Aykroyd almost like at his best when it comes to polar opposite acting, it's so good. It's like he's a college professor, comes from a pretty rich family. He's very proper. He's very straight and steady, and he gets duped into becoming a pimp.
There's another pimp movie.
And instead of being, his character, college professor being a pimp, he creates an entire new persona named Dr. Detroit. And it's the most incredible thing ever. I think Dr. Detroit is probably one of my favorite movies of all time.
It's really good.
It's really good. I don't want to get into it, but we got Fran Drescher, we got who's the guy with the roller skates in The Thing who listens to Superstitious.
Yeah, he plays the driver.
He plays the driver, and he's also, dude, I love Dr. Detroit so much I have the soundtrack on vinyl.
Yeah, Devo does the opening title song.
Yeah.
Nice.
Like you can't go wrong. Like if you're a fan of Ghostbusters, if you're a fan of like The Great Outdoors, if you just like zany Dan Aykroyd characters, like Dr. Detroit is the movie that you have been looking for that you just didn't even know it existed.
It's a very kind of uniquely bizarre movie. Like the plot is all over the place. It's almost like a sort of comic booky, like superhero-y type movie, but a pimp.
There's
It's portrayed
there's
that
a
way,
James
yeah.
Brown performance.
Yeah.
Just like the Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
And you brought up that the director of Coneheads, I think, made the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie, you said?
The first one, yeah.
The director of Dr. Detroit, Michael Pressman, made Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze.
I didn't know that. I had no idea.
That's right. It's all connected, bro.
No wonder why you like it so much.
Like being the fucking biggest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan that a lot of people have ever met, like that kind of blew my mind when you told me that earlier. I didn't really know how to take it. I just had to like change the subject really quick.
I knew that.
Dragnet. Straight up made after the show. Buddy cop movie starring Dan Aykroyd and Tom Hanks. Nobody fucking talks about this movie. Like nobody. And it goes through so many things. And it's like, it almost like gets confusing. Like I had to watch it a couple of times to like really figure out what the fuck was going on. Because they were just like, oh, we got this clue. And then all of a sudden they're in kind of like complete costume and like undercover.
and then there's a cult.
And then, and then there's like this cult and there's like this chick that gets kidnapped and all this.
They used to play that movie all the time on Comedy Central in like the early to mid 2000s. Do you remember that? I swear,
No.
like all the time that
Weird.
movie was on.
I never had cable.
I remember when we first got it, they just played that movie over and over on Comedy Central.
I love that movie.
Dragnet, aside from just the Tom Hanks, Dan Aykroyd dynamic, what is there anything else in there then?
Classic buddy cop movie. If you like that kind of dynamic, it's a good one to watch.
Yeah, I mean, like, because Dragnet was an old show.
I think it was on in like the 50s, wasn't it?
In the 50s?
Just the facts, ma'am.
Yeah, just the facts, ma'am.
And that would be Aykroyd.
And it's and the only one that is keeping that persona from the old show is Dan Aykroyd. So his acting is just on par. Like holy shit, dude, his tangents in that movie are so good. Where he's just like, you've already violated 154418.
Yeah,
18
he's
too.
a by
You
the
need it.
book kind of guy.
Yeah. Like he finds out that his partner quit, and he's just like, well, he always wanted to have that farm. And then Tom Hanks shows up, not even driving a car, it's being towed. And he was undercover for a really long time. Like his character was undercover, so he's just like looks like shit, and he's smoking a cigarette, and he's just like, you're violating every fucking code conduct. And when it comes to this precinct, I need shine shoes and a black tie and white press shirt, press pants.
To the letter.
Yeah, I'm your new partner, buddy. Not looking like that, you're not.
Yeah.
It's really, really good.
Another Dan Aykroyd favorite that I have is Coneheads. Everyone knows Coneheads. Came from SNL skits. Mm-hmm. It's a lot funnier. Like, people just look at it and they're like, oh, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to watch that. But it's really funny. It has at least 15 SNL alumni cast members in it, which is insane.
Yeah.
It was also Drew Carey's first movie role. Fun fact.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also a fun fact about Coneheads is it's the same director that did the first Ninja Turtles movie.
Oh, that's cool.
Steve Barron, I think is what his name is. And he only did those 2 movies, and then he's directed like commercials and TV episodes for stuff. But
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of his movies that there's a lot of movies I actually think he's like probably the best part of, whether I like him or not. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Tommy Boy, but I think he's amazing in it. As
Yeah.
the sleazy cars salesman
Zelensky.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
The commercial with the kid and his mom.
Yeah. He's great.
what is it? I make car parts
The
for...
American working man, because that's who I am and that's who I care about.
That's who I care about.
I love him.
Yeah.
That's another one I always forget he's in that till he shows up. I'm like, fuck yeah, Dan Aykroyd's in this movie. I'm
Yeah.
in. I'm all in.
Yeah, he's
Dan
like,
Aykroyd is left-handed. So am I.
His eyes are 2 different colors.
Yeah. He's on the spectrum, right, of autism.
No, he is autistic. He has Asperger's.
He has Asperger's. He's Canadian.
Yes.
He has webbed feet.
Yes,
the webbed
has.
feet.
He strongly believes that UFOs and aliens are real, and he has documentaries in which he is in
Yes,
and talks about them.
there's
He's the
one
most
that's-
interesting fucking guy ever, and I love him.
No, he basically like when he was writing Ghostbusters, he straight up designed every piece of equipment
To work.
to actually work. I mean, it doesn't. The science was there. I mean, of course, it's just a prop, but like he was just like, oh yeah, so this would be blah blah blah, and this is and then he had like a fucking prop maker or whatever the fucking professional version of that is called, but he was like like there's a documentary that I have where they remake the Ecto-1, and he was just like, oh yeah, so this is this and this is what this does and blah blah blah, and like he knows like everything about ghosts. Like he's a savant. Like he knows fucking, not only is this bastard funny, but he is like he's a real scientist.
I have such a boner for Dan Aykroyd. It's crazy.
He has a photographic memory. I don't know if you listed that one, because I remember reading.
That
I read a
makes
book
sense.
about SNL, and they said that he could look at a book and like just memorize the page like instantly. Like, but the only book they said that he ever actually memorized was like a meat packing guide from some meat packing plant or something. He's like, I've got it all stored away.
Just in case.
But like you brought up the webbed feet. For anyone who didn't know, Dan Aykroyd has webbed feet. If you actually want to see them, look up Mr. Mike's Mondo Video. It's a sketch comedy film from the late 70s directed by Michael O'Donoghue from National Lampoon, Saturday Night Live. You get to see Dan Aykroyd explain at length about his webbed feet and poke at them with a screwdriver. It's pretty dope. But there's other good stuff. Like, he's been in a lot of underrated movies. Into the Night, John Landis with Jeff Goldblum, Michelle Pfeiffer, David Bowie. That's a cool movie. The Couch Trip is an interesting movie, not talked about a lot. Gross Point Blank, he's great as the psychopathic hitman who keeps saying, popcorn!
Dude, he's so insane in that movie.
Yeah, he's amazing in that
Like
movie.
that whole scene between him and
Cusack
Cusack when they're in the
diner there.
in the restaurant, and he's just like throwing F-bombs.
Yeah.
Fucking
I'm going to put a bullet in your brain, then I'm going to fuck the bullet hole.
yeah, he's so crazy.
Yeah, he's loony. And he's in, there's a Beatles parody movie that he has a small part in before Spinal Tap, or maybe a little after, called
The Ruddles?
The Roodles. Yeah, All You Need Is Cash.
It's the Ruddles.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, he has a little role in there.
I didn't know that he was in that, but I'm very familiar with the Ruddles.
Yeah. Old Dan Aykroyd. Lots of good work out there if you only know Ghostbusters or like The Great Outdoors. Dive further in.
We
'cause
love you,
there's
Dan.
all kinds of goodies out there.
My Stepmom is an Alien, starring Dan Aykroyd and Kim Basinger, or Bassinger, however you want to say it.
I think it's Basinger.
I think it's Basinger too. Yeah, she's
Playing the Basinger.
She's
Yeah.
an alien, and he's a scientist, and she is trying to figure out his secrets. They fall in love. It's got the girl from How I Met Your Mother, but more famously, she put a flute in her pussy. From American Pie. You know,
That was what you're talking about from Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Is that
Yeah, yeah.
Allison Hannigan?
Oh, wow.
Or
Yeah, Is that his daughter?
It's his daughter, yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
Oh, wow.
it's her first movie.
I didn't recognize. That's crazy. Young Seth Green.
Yeah, and I think that's his first movie too. I mean, it's just a bit part because he's the date for the
Yeah.
prom. Yeah, at the very end of the movie.
The immortal John Lovitz. Jay Sherman.
Oh man, yeah.
yeah.
Love John Lovitz.
Talking about My Stepmother's an Alien. Fun fact, I don't know if you knew this, the guy who directed that movie is Richard Benjamin, who you may recognize as the dad in Saturday the 14th.
Oh, shit.
He was James Brolin's buddy in Westworld who got blown away by Yul Brynner,
Nice.
and he was in Love at First Bite. So that guy had a small directing
Holy shit.
career.
That's cool. I
That's
did not
awesome.
know that.
Interesting. So we're going to move now. Go ahead and tell us what some of your choices are there.
I would like to add Mom and Dad Save the World on my list. Has John Lovitz, Terry Garr, Jeffrey Jones, and basically I've heard that it's an unofficial sequel to My Stepmother is an Alien. I've heard that. I don't know if that's true, but it was an HBO movie and John Lovitz had to quit SNL for that season to do the movie because the time had overlapped. And he plays this emperor that kind of abducts this Earth woman he's going to blow up Earth because his planet is very small and he's inadequate in planet size. So he's going to blow up Earth. But before that, he abducts Marge Nelson and her husband Dick in their Woody station wagon, and they basically have to save the world from this planet, and it's a planet full of idiots. It's really funny.
From Todd Spango.
Yeah, Todd Spango. That's John Lovitz.
I also saw that movie in the theater.
I am so jealous that you're seeing all of my favorite underrated movies in the theater before me.
You can thank my father.
Thanks, Gary. John Lovitz also played another role in which he was in love with a Marge on The Simpsons, which is a fun fact. I just like that a lot.
Streetcar named Maud.
Yeah. So Mom and Dad Save the World. That's such a fun early 90s sci-fi comedy movie. If you like weird, campy, culty comedies, you should watch that.
Yeah, it's a really good one.
I'm going to start with horror because that's kind of my wheelhouse. Intruder from 1989, I feel, is a great 80s slasher movie that nobody really knows about or no one ever really talks about. A movie that came out more recently that I think people in our friend group really liked it, but I didn't really hear anyone else talking about it. It's called The Void, and it came out in 2016. It's kind of a Lovecraftian cosmic Hellraiser meets The Thing in a hospital.
That movie's fucking amazing.
That's pretty much all I'm going to say about that. There's hardly any CGI in it. Most of the monsters and blood and stuff is practical, and they make some really cool creatures in it, and it's a lot of fun to watch. And it was a crowdfunded project, which is really cool.
It was also written and directed by the same guys who did Manborg.
Oh, yeah, Manborg.
Astron 6, yeah.
Astron 6, yeah.
So they're part of that.
BioCop.
Yeah.
They worked with Troma.
Yeah.
But
this movie is totally serious. It's not goofy. Like,
yeah, it's not tongue in cheek. It's their first.
It's really good.
Yeah.
You should watch it if you like that kind of weird cosmic culty shit. The Final Girls that came out in 2015 is one of my favorite movies to come out in the last 10 years. It's kind of a satire on the camp slasher, but in a weird way. It was conceived and co-written by Joshua John Miller as a way of dealing with the death of his father, Jason Miller, who starred as Father Karras in The Exorcist. So The Final Girls is about this girl whose mom was in this camp slasher movie in the 80s. And so she's an actress and she's trying to get past that. Shit happens. She dies very early in the movie. It's not a spoiler.
The
mom dies early in the movie, and it's like a year later, and they're doing a double feature of the movie she was in was called Camp Bloodbath. So they're showing Camp Bloodbath 1 and 2 at the theater, and she goes as a, solid to her friend. And a fire starts in the theater, and they kind of end up getting sucked into the movie. And so once they're in the movie, she meets up with her mom, but her mom is playing this character in the movie. It's not really her mom. So this was the way of him to kind of write how he could deal with his dad being an actor and still watching The Exorcist with his dad in this role, but he's dead now. So it's kind of interesting.
It's a whole Last Action Hero.
It is. And there's
concept.
If you're a horror fan, if you're an 80s horror fan, it's so much fun to watch this because all of the nods to movies. My phone turned off. Hang on. Sorry.
My hat fell off.
So the mom's name in the movie is Nancy, and she was based on the character of Ginny from Friday the 13th Part 2, played by Amy Steele. So that's the nerd with the clipboard kind of character. The characters Nancy and Tina got their names from Nightmare on Elm Street. So there's that. And then the main antagonist in the movie is named Billy Murphy, and he's based on The Burning's Cropsey because they throw firecrackers on him in the outhouse and he gets all burnt, and that's why he becomes a killer. It's really fun, and it's beautifully shot. The color palette is amazing once they get into the movie. It's like Technicolor madness. There's like bright colors and flowers everywhere, and it looks great. It's so much fun to watch.
Yeah, there's a lot of green and heavy purples, and like all the night scenes were just lit immediately.
Yeah, there's cool slow motion scenes. There's scenes where people are on fire. There's like these one-shot scenes where they're just filming all this crazy shit that they're doing in order to try to capture this killer. And they had to straight up build this main cabin, like the counselor cabin, to be tall enough to fit the camera rig in it for what they wanted to do. And then they just left it there for the camp to have. There's a lot of cool shit about this movie, and I feel like people don't watch it. It's like PG-13. There's not a lot of gore, but I think that's okay. I think they did a really good job without having a bunch of blood and guts and shit.
Yeah.
And that's crazy for me to say.
I would agree. For a slasher movie, it's just extremely fucking nostalgic.
It's really good.
Like, it captured, like, if you guys like slasher movies, like Friday the 13th and Halloween and stuff like that, like,
This is just a love
you
note.
should, it's a total love, it's like the perfect love note for this.
It's very good.
It's like heartwarming.
And it's it kind of makes me tear up every time I watch it because of the mom shit that they throw in there. You're like, oh.
Well, it's got a lot of heart. And then fucking Adam from fucking Workaholics. He's in
Adam
there. He's
Devine.
so fucking funny.
Revenge. Did you watch Revenge?
I haven't seen that yet. That's the newer film.
Yeah, 2017. Very, very interesting rape revenge movie. Starts out kind of slow, and then you have to see the whole rape thing, which at least they don't show it full on, but it's still sucks to watch. But basically this girl goes with her boyfriend, who happens to be married to his remote, I want to say they're in Australia. It looks like the outback. They're in kind of like a sandy desert area.
The bush.
Yeah, they're in the bush. And so they're hanging out, and then his two friends show up for a hunting trip that they're supposed to go on. And the girl's kind of a little flirty, but not overly flirtatious.
She's there to party.
Yeah. So one of the guys ends up taking that wrong and falls for her too hard, and then,
Fucking rape.
shit goes down, and it's disgusting. And then it just gets so crazy after that. If you can watch through all that stuff, it's totally worth it. The whole revenge part is the point of the movie, clearly, because that's the name. The last scene is so bloody.
Oh, yeah.
It's so fucking good.
So it's kind of like a mild down version of I Spit on Your Grave, but not really. I mean, it's not as violent, I think.
Well, only one of the dudes does anything to her.
Yeah,
but
that's what I mean.
They also kind of try
isn't as crazy.
They try to shut her up, which is not cool. But anyway, her whole revenge scene is awesome, and she basically takes out these guys one by one, and it's really beautiful cinematography. The final scene is what that movie's all about. There's so much blood in that movie at the end. At first you're like, revenge. She's getting it here and there. But the end, when she faces the boss battle, is so good.
It's a full blown payoff.
It's fucking rad. The Voices is another movie that I really like that came out kind of recently.
Ryan Reynolds.
The best Ryan Reynolds movie.
It is. It is the best Ryan Reynolds
next
movie.
Next to Boltnick.
This was right before he did Deadpool 1. Came out in 2014. And it kind of just shows the life of... He's got a few things. He's got OCD, schizophrenia, and some other thing. I can't remember.
Mainly schizophrenia.
Mainly that. He is working in a warehouse.
It's a packaging plant. Yeah.
And it just kind of shows his life when he's on his meds. And then he kind of falls for this girl, and she dismisses him, and he gets kind of, brokenhearted about that in a way. And then shit happens. I don't want to ruin the movie, but when it shows him off his meds, I think is a really good representation of how delusional he really is. You see his world one way when he's on his meds, and then when he stops taking them, you see what his world really looks like, and you're like, oh shit, this is really dark. And he talks to his dog and cat.
Yeah.
Who Ryan does the voices for both.
Ryan Reynolds voices both of them.
He voices a goldfish at one point. Too.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
He sure does.
It's really good. And it's also really beautifully shot. And it's another one of those movies that has really good cinematography, and I just love the color palette. It's really aesthetically pleasing to me.
Yeah.
And it's heartfelt.
There's
I feel bad for Jerry. His character's Jerry.
Yeah.
I feel really bad for him. I root for him.
Yeah, because he's not really the villain, but he's also creating his own situation.
Yeah. There is a lot of comedy in that movie.
There is.
Too,
it's kind of a black comedy as opposed to a straight up horror movie.
Yeah.
Another movie that I love a lot is called The Loved Ones. I don't know if this one's super underrated, but I wanted to put it on here anyway. Frailty from 2001. This is Bill Paxton's directorial debut, and it's about a guy and his 2 sons living alone in Texas, and he is spoken to by God, and he is set out by God to kill all the demons that look like humans. And
With an axe.
With an axe named Otis. Probably a lot of people have seen this movie, and it's probably not really underrated.
I don't hear it talked about too often.
But I don't hear it talked about often.
Not that often.
It's so good. It's so
McConaughey.
creepy. Yeah, it's got
McConaughey.
Matthew McConaughey, Bill Paxton, Powers Booth is in it, which is super weird because Bill Paxton and Powers Booth both died in early 2017, and they were also both in Tombstone and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, shit.
So that's kind of strange.
Interesting.
But Bill Paxton originally was only going to play the dad, and the movie's based on a story or a book, and he thought the only way he could get the dad right was if he directed it. So he got the okay to direct it, which is kind of cool for being his first movie. And I think he nailed it. It was so good.
That movie's amazing. Have you seen?
Yeah, I saw that like back a couple of years after it came out or so.
And there's kind of a twist at the end,
yeah.
which is good.
Because
And-
it's, I mean, McConaughey is kind of like the main character talking about his life story and what's happened
he's
to
basically
him.
like, I know who the God's Hand Killer is. Let me tell
Yeah.
you what. It's my dad. And it's loosely based on the real killer Joseph Callinger. He and his 14-year-old son murdered people and tortured 4 families because God told them to,
Yeah.
which is pretty crazy.
Like that Larry Cohen movie. God told me to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a fun one. I'm sure most of you listening have seen this one. That might be my most mainstream movie that's on here.
But it's always good to talk about.
Bill Paxton?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Bill
agree.
Paxton.
He just had a birthday.
God, I miss you, Bill. Drag Me to Hell, 2009. This is a Sam Raimi movie that I think people didn't receive well, and I think it's because they forgot that Sam Raimi makes movies like this.
Makes horror movies.
Just even the way the camera is, the camera work. This movie reeks of Sam Raimi, and people
Yeah.
are like, I just didn't like it.
He made this movie after the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
So
This-
he was cleansing his palette the best way that he could.
This is Sam
And I
Raimi
think-
to the max.
And I think that he fucking nailed it.
Yeah, I loved this movie. There's a couple things I kind of like giggled about, like the goat feet shadows under the door. I was like,
Well,
that's
yeah.
stupid. But I loved it.
But what part of Evil Dead 2 do you not laugh at?
I love all of it.
There's a lot of
Right.
good like gross out stuff in that movie, like the getting the green puke out of the
Yeah.
dead chick's mouth. Like, ugh.
And that girl did almost all of her stunts too, which is cool.
Yeah, a lot of that shit was practical stuff.
I don't
except
know
when
what
you
everyone's
know that
problem
it's-
people
was with that.
complained about the ending, but it's like
Oh,
it's
fuck-
the
fucking
name
A.
of the movie.
No, it's
you
good.
know it's going there.
You
It
think it's all
works.
good, and then oh my god, it happened.
Yeah.
that movie is perfect.
The Delta's there. He put the Delta in it, of course. It's Sylvia Ganush's car, right?
To be honest, like if Sam Raimi is gonna make his own movie, or it's not like, oh, someone else wrote this script, you got to do this, like Spider-Man.
To be fair,
He's always going, dude. Sam Raimi has a huge track record of fucking torturing his main actors.
oh yeah.
Okay, so like any actors who are fucking listening that are going to be on the next Sam Raimi project, they're just like, you do realize that he's going to beat you in the head with a fucking backpack full of books.
Or cover you in a real grave.
Or throw you in a pool of water that is actually quicksand.
To be fair, and I don't know, he has to know this, but the plot borrows heavily from the movie Night of the Demon from 1957. So, I mean, the story's like not 100% Sam Raimi, but the filming and all of that totally reeks of Sam Raimi. And the script for Drag Me to Hell was done after Army of Darkness in 1992, and they wanted to go do other stuff. So this movie was like ready to go in the early 90s.
Shit.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, it was ready after 1992, and they just were like, nah, we're gonna do all this other shit. And finally, 2009 rolls around, they're like, let's do Drag Me to Hell. And I think that probably worked in their favor because they do have a bit of CG in this movie, and I think it's not like super good, but it's not as bad as it would have been in 1993. Another movie I want to talk about horror-wise that I really loved and I recommend to everyone when they're like, I need a new movie to watch, because I know no one knows about this movie for some reason. I only found out about it because I bought it at a thrift store, because I bought like 9 movies. They're like, well, you get 10 for free, so I just fucking grabbed it. It's called Starry Eyes, and it came out in 2014. It's so cool. It's this girl who's an aspiring actress, and she goes to all these script reads and auditions, and she's just not making the cut, and she kind of like freaks out in the bathroom about it. And one of the people that's there for auditions hears her freaking out and like ripping her hair out in her bathroom stall. They're like, can you come back and do that in front of us? And she does it, and they're like, okay, you got what it takes. So she keeps coming to these weird auditions.
Yeah.
And it just gets a lot weirder and weirder. And so she gets deeper and deeper into getting this role, and stuff kind of starts happening to her. And she starts getting really sick after doing something to get the role. And you're like, oh, geez, what's going to happen to this girl? And it's just really tense the whole time. And it's really dark. And it's just, you feel kind of terrified the whole time because you don't know what's happening to her.
There's really great practical effects in that movie. No
Yeah.
CGI. Like,
There's not a whole lot. There's a few things with like some bugs and some gruesome shit. She like coughs up and
yeah, like hacking up stuff in the bathtub, like maggots
yeah,
and
and
stuff
she
like that.
actually like did that. So a movie that's similar to this that came out later that I fucking hated was called The Neon Demon.
Yeah.
And I think Starry Eyes did a better version. It's different because Neon Demon's the modeling world and Starry Eyes
This
is
one's
the
movie
acting world,
industry,
but it's
yeah.
basically like
Kind of similar
What would
story.
you do to get
Yeah.
ahead in
It's
this
like the
career?
Faustian bargain kind of thing.
Yeah,
you know?
so Neon
Yeah.
Demon was like, we're going to be really bright and aesthetically pleasing, but that's all it had going for it for me. Like, I hated that movie. If people want to see something that's like that, I recommend Starry Eyes because it's way
Neon
better.
Demon fucking sucked.
It has a great score. The soundtrack is really cool. They only shot it in 18 days. That's crazy.
There's a really good head smashing in that movie.
Yes, that's
I'm
my
I'm
favorite
a fan
part.
of a good head smashing, and there's
That
a good
is my
one in there.
favorite part.
That's
You
your
don't.
favorite?
That's my favorite part. You don't
It's my
see it
favorite
coming.
part, too.
Andrew, I was watching this movie by myself while Andrew was in Chicago, and I paused it right before that. And I was talking to him on the phone. I was like, oh, how's your trip? Okay, bye, love you. And then I pushed play again, and that happened. I was like, holy shit. I have to show Andrew this movie when he gets home. This is nuts. He's going to hate it because it's so gross. And it's, I don't know, I just really liked it a lot.
That's a good movie.
Another horror movie I really like that came out recently is The Autopsy of Jane Doe. That came out in 2016. It's kind of a mystery. Like, they find this body, and it's a father-son mortician team, and they're just basically trying to find out who, like, they don't know who this girl is. All of her wounds are very strange, like her tongue's cut out, she's stark white, her eyes are all white. It gets kind of supernatural, and I don't want to give away too much because I didn't know what was happening going into the movie, and I think that made it way better.
Yeah.
When they kind of found different things out about her body. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Definitely watch that one.
And that's on Netflix at the moment, I think.
Oh, what
for
a
anybody
treat.
who subscribes to that. I just steal it from other people. That's the best way.
You could borrow it from me. I own it. So a few comedies that I think are underrated. I got to say Bulletproof with Adam Sandler and Damon Wayans. Disneyland. That movie's so funny.
I think Ernest Dickerson directed that movie. The guy who made Demon Knight, Bones, Surviving the Game.
Another comedy I really love, and I know Andrew loves this one too. Kingpin.
Oh, yeah.
Woody Harrelson, Randy Quaid. That's a Farrelly Brothers film.
It's probably one of their best next to Dumb and Dumber, I would
Oh,
say.
yeah. I would say Dumb and Dumber and Kingpin are my top two Farrelly
Yeah.
Brothers
That
movies.
was another movie I saw in the theater.
I saw that in the theater too with my aunt and uncle.
So inappropriate. For
Did
like
you
a,
know?
like 11-year-old.
Yeah. Did you know that Chris Farley was up for Ishmael, but he had to film Black Sheep instead?
Oh,
Really?
Isn't that weird?
Woody Harrelson. Oh well, no, I heard
John Cusack was gonna be.
Michael Keaton.
Oh, it was Michael Keaton. I was thinking of a different movie.
It's Michael Keaton was going to play Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, no, that's
In
true.
Kingpin?
Yeah.
Oh,
He was
what?
up
That
for
would be
it.
dope.
It would have been Michael Keaton, Chris Farley.
Yep.
I don't think it would have been as good. I love both of those people.
Yeah. Oh no. Okay, I'm so sorry. Michael Keaton was going to play Bill Murray's character. That's what it was.
Oh, Ernie McCracken.
Still wouldn't
Ernie
have been
McCracken.
like Bill Murray as Big Ern.
No, I mean the movie's perfect. Like I'm not gonna sit here and even
Yeah.
try to think about like what could have been from some of my favorite
No,
actors
I
because
think
you
they
know
got
what
it
they
right.
fucking nailed it.
They got it
and,
right.
Like
That's right.
that's in a universe that I don't want to live in.
Another thing I want to bring up. So, you know, when they're in the bar and he's like dancing with the girl and the guy that bothers them is named Skidmark?
Yeah.
it has been confirmed that he's related to Seabass from Dumb and Dumber. So those movies
course it
exist
has.
in the same universe. So that's
You're
fun.
riding a gravy train with biscuit wheels, baby.
Yeah, Skidmark and Seabass brothers. Another early 90s comedy that I really love, Airheads, 1994.
Love it.
Yeah, it's a
Adam
story
Sandler.
of the Lone Rangers.
Chris Farley again.
Yeah, Chris Farley's in that. So it's Brendan Fraser, Adam Sandler, and Steve Buscemi as the band. And they...
As the Lone Rangers.
Yeah, the Lone Rangers. This is the one that John Cusack was supposed to be Chaz. He was going to be Brendan Fraser's character. I don't know if he could have played the rock and roll type of guy that they needed for
Brandon
this.
Fraser. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Johnny couldn't read.
I love Airheads.
Johnny couldn't write.
Yeah. So back to my grandma letting me watch HBO and not watching what I watched. We used to watch Airheads and PCU and Blankman all the time. So she recorded illegally from HBO. We had a double feature of Blankman Airheads, and it was amazing. It was the best double feature ever. It just reminds me of childhood. So those are the other two movies I'd like to mention. PCU, 1994, and also Blankman, 1994. I got 3 1994s in a row. Good year.
Hell of a year.
Yeah. PCU is Jeremy Piven, and it's basically this pre-frosh goes to this college to see if he wants to go there, and he has to hang out with draws for the whole weekend. And it's basically this rundown party house that used to be a frat, and he thinks it's still a frat, and he's like, yeah, show me like what frat life is. They're like, no. Frats died in the 50s or whatever. And it's so much fun. It's kind of like a early 90s party movie.
It's kind of like Van Wilder, but better.
But way better. Yeah,
Like
way better.
Yeah.
There's a performance from P-Funk, which is great.
John
the Parliament.
Favreau,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, Gutter. So Blankman is my next movie that I want to talk about. So it's another Damon Wayans movie, because in the early 90s, Damon Wayans was the shit.
The last Boy Scout, dude.
Yeah.
Mo Money.
Hell yeah.
I just got more money from the Goodwill bins, yo. Also, Major Payne is cool. But I'm talking about Blankman. Blankman is about this kind of nerdy guy and his brother that live with his grandma. And they're just in a bad part of the town, and there's
Homie, don't
crime.
play that.
There's crime all over the place. And he discovers this liquid. He's kind of a scientist, and he accidentally spills this liquid on his clothes, and he sees that the fire doesn't burn it. So he's like, oh, I can make like an armor out of this stuff. And so he dunks all his clothes in it, and he goes around the streets in this blanket and like pajama set as Blankman. And
He's a DIY superhero.
yeah, he like builds all this stuff out of garbage, and it's so cool. It's so much fun. I love it. It's kind of a whimsical, dark comedy action movie from the 90s. And he has like this innocence to him. I just love Blankman.
Yeah, he gets his first kiss and just like starts jizzing in his pants like immediately.
The next movie I would like to talk about is probably my most favorite movie in the last decade, Turbo Kid. No one talks about Turbo Kid.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just because I don't know where you watch it.
That's on Netflix.
Is it?
Yeah, I think
watch it.
that
What
one's
are you
kind of
doing
like a
listening
cult
to this?
movie, yeah.
Stop
You know,
the
dude,
podcast and watch fucking Turbo Kid and then come back.
Stop now. There's a sequel, kind of. There's a prequel.
There's a prequel
There's
music
a
video.
5-minute prequel.
So Turbo Kid is a post-apocalyptic wasteland in 1997, and it's basically Mad Max, but kids on bikes. And there's like no water. All the water is like acid rain. And there's like an evil warlord played by Michael Ironside.
It's 1997.
Yeah, so it's based on a short film called T is for Turbo, which was submitted for the movie ABCs of Death. So you can watch this. And actually, one of the directors is in this, and she plays a role, which is kind of cool. She also plays in the full-length Turbo Kid. She plays Turbo Kid's mom in his flashbacks. So that's one of the directors. There's 3 directors. This is one of my favorite movies. I love it so much. If you're an 80s kid or even a 90s kid, it's going to just tug at your heart. There's so much good stuff.
If you're 30, you're going to love Turbo Kid.
If you're between the ages of 25 and 35, you're probably really going to like Turbo Kid.
What if I'm 24?
You'll probably still like Turbo Kid. That's a great movie. Please watch it. Cheap Thrills is also on my list.
That's
That
a
came
great
out
movie.
in 2013. It's E.L. Katz.
Yeah.
It's a strange movie. I have it with my horror movies, but it's not really a horror movie.
It's just an ugly, mean-spirited
It's just kind of
movie.
like, oh God, how far will you go?
Yeah.
That movie kind of sits close to home because we know a person that worked on the set of that movie.
Yeah, I'm friends with a guy that did the behind the scenes featurette.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
TJ,
cool.
what's up, TJ?
Yeah.
It was really hot when they filmed, apparently.
I can imagine because everyone's super sweaty.
And it was a really short production.
That movie is amazing.
It's super
Pat
good.
Healy, Dave
I
Koechner.
love Pat Healy. Pat Healy was in Starry Eyes.
Yeah, he's great. Ghost World.
Yeah. Is it Sarah Paxton? Is that
Yeah.
her name? So
Yeah.
From the what was that? The Innkeepers?
yeah, so
Yeah,
Pat
it was
Healy.
also Pat Healy.
Pat Healy and
Yeah.
Sarah Paxton, who is distantly related to Bill, I think.
It's his niece.
Yeah, I was thinking niece. So they starred in The Innkeepers together, which is a Ty West movie. Plug for another movie I didn't actually have on my list, but now that I'm thinking of it, House of the Devil.
Oh, yeah.
House of the Devil.
Fuck.
So good.
See, I was thinking about that one too, but I didn't.
That's a good one. Yeah, Cheap Thrills. Good shit. Seven Psychopaths. Also good shit.
Oh, Sam Rockwell.
Sam
Sam
Rockwell.
Rockwell, dude.
Tom Waits. Tom Waits only agreed to do the movie. He didn't even read the script. He just heard he was going to be surrounded by bunny rabbits and that he really likes animals. So he was like, I'll do it. Like, cool, dude.
Christopher
Fucking A.
Walken.
Yeah.
Well,
that
yeah.
movie's so good.
Yeah, man.
Colin Farrell. Like, everyone does a great job in the movie.
Woody Harrelson.
Woody
yeah.
Harrelson. Yeah.
Woody Harrelson is a goddamn
That movie came out
psychopath.
in 2012. And I just want to mention a few others before I give up my time. Digging Up the Marrow. That's an Adam Green movie with Ray Wise, where it's
Bless his heart.
bless Ray Wise's heart. He's such an angel. We met him recently at Crypticon.
Bought him a glass of whiskey.
I
He
wanted
tried to
to-
give me shit for free, and I wouldn't do it.
I wanted to smooch his face so bad. So this is a fake documentary about how this character that Ray Wise plays, he believes monsters exist, and he found their entryway to their underground dwelling. And it gets really crazy. It's kind of a slow burn, but it's funny. And if you like horror and all that kind of stuff, you'll enjoy it. You'll even just enjoy Ray Wise and Adam Green talking because it's kind of funny.
And all the monsters were designed by Alex Pardee.
Yes. Another movie I really liked. It's kind of a coming of age tale / comedy. It's called Whip It, and it's about Texas roller derby. Came out in 2009, and this is actually Drew Barrymore's directorial debut, and it stars Ellen Page, Kristen Wiig, and Juliette Lewis. It's very good.
Daniel Stern.
Yeah, Daniel Stern plays her dad, and he's great. It's a good movie. It's well acted. I love everything about the whole derby aspect. I feel like I missed my shot at that because if I tried it now, I would just bust my ass and be hurt forever.
Yeah.
Super, James Gunn movie. It's kind of a dark comedy starring Rainn Wilson. It's got Michael Rooker, Sean Gunn, Liv Tyler, and Kevin Bacon.
Sleazy Kevin Bacon.
Sleazy ass Kevin Bacon as the antagonist. So Rainn Wilson he's kind of weird where he basically is like, oh, my wife's gone and I need to figure out where she's gone and I'm going to be a superhero.
The Crimson Bolt.
I'm going to be the Crimson Bolt. So he gets this like superhero costume and his power is basically he bashes people with like a crowbar or a pipe.
Shut up, crime!
But he goes about it all wrong and he's actually just kind of like hurting people. And it's really weird. And like at some points you feel bad for what you're watching. You're like, oh God, this is not good. Like he's doing some really horrible damage.
He means well, but he's not good at it.
He means well, but he is delusional as shit.
He like
Yeah.
smashes a guy in the face for cutting in
for
line.
cutting
at the
in
movie
line,
theater.
and he's like gushing at the skull, and
Yeah.
he probably died.
Deservedly
It's crazy.
so.
You don't
Shouldn't have
cut.
cut in
You
line,
don't cut
dude.
in line.
It's a dark comedy.
It's a very dark comedy.
And it's in tradition with James Gunn's like older movies like Romeo and
yeah,
Juliet. And
Romeo and
Slither.
Juliet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Slither. So yeah, watch
I
Super.
feel like that should be on the list. Slither.
Another movie I really liked that came out recently when Nick Cage made his little comeback, Mom and Dad. It's got Nicolas Cage and Selma Blair. There's a Lance Henriksen cameo. It's a cool idea.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if you want like classic Nick,
Yeah. Oh, it's so fun.
If you want to see Cage Unleashed.
If you want to see Cage Unleashed, you should watch Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
And then Mandy.
And then Mandy.
So that's a good one if you like watching Nicolas Cage go batshit. Congo. Y'all seen Congo?
Amy, smart. Smart Amy.
Congo's on my mentions list. Everyone knows what Congo is. No one takes it seriously, but I do.
That movie is very serious.
Stop
Great.
eating my sesame cake.
I just want to eat that Hershey's bar.
Yeah, so did Bruce Campbell. That's all he wanted. And look what happened to
Had
him.
to die for it.
Bummer.
Cecil B. Demented is a weird kind of cult comedy that I always liked growing up.
John Waters.
Yeah, as soon as that movie came out, that was kind of when I started getting into like odd movies, like cult movies and strange movies. And it's basically a guerrilla film team kidnaps this famous actress and they kind of brainwash her into making this live action movie that they're filming to have a big fuck you to Hollywood.
It's kind of similar to Bowfinger a little bit.
A little bit, but like way more raunchy.
Yeah.
So that one's fun.
A young Michael Shannon in that movie.
Yeah, that might be like
He's
the
great.
first thing I saw him in.
Yeah.
Event Horizon. I almost didn't put this on my list because I feel like it's not underrated, but I also don't hear people talking about it nearly as much as they should.
Crazy Sam Neill. That's always fun.
It's Hellraiser in space, right? So it's still creepy. The effects are still awesome. And like, there's so many cool scenes in it, like when they show where the ship actually went. So
you
all
hell?
know. Yeah, you all know what it is, right? Event Horizon. Another really cool movie that's kind of spacey is Virus.
Oh, fuck yeah.
With Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Sutherland and Billy Baldwin.
So this is one that I wanted to put on my list, but I knew that Bri was going to stick to the horror thing. Because I'm more slapstick comedy and my wife is straight up horror. And I really wanted to put Virus on
I'm
mine.
a straight up horror.
But I knew that that Bri would eventually put that on her list.
It's so cool. It came out in 1999, and it's basically these machines beam down this signal from space. It's like space machines. And they become like sentient, and they take body parts from these humans they kill, and they make human cyborg machines. And it's so cool. They look so gnarly. I love it. It's a good movie. Andrew showed me this one. I had never seen it before. So thanks, babe.
You're welcome. I mean, you gotta love those hive mind movies, especially when it's like as gory as this one.
It's very good. It's a very underrated movie.
It was like one of the first goriest movies that I had ever seen.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, so that's a pretty good handful of some of the movies that y'all think are underrated. And yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. I think we covered a lot of ground on this show. Got everything from like 90s comedy to like modern horror and a lot of stuff in between there. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of the movies that y'all talked about. There's a few that actually I think I need to see. So I got some homework to do myself. But for now, we're going to leave it at that note. Everybody out there, go and watch some of these movies. Go watch PCU. Go watch Dr. Detroit. Go watch all that shit.
Let us know what you think.
Yeah, that's right.
Let
We
us
wanna
know if
hear.
you found a new favorite movie.
That's right. So that's going to conclude it for episode 6 of the Video Psychosis podcast. Once again, we have the screening coming up in July. Try and make it out for that if you're in Olympia. But for now, I'm Strong Knots.
And Bri.
And I'm Andrew.
And that concludes Video Psychosis.
The 6th episode of the Video Psychosis podcast was recorded at DNA Studios in Shelton, Washington.